The Ludlow Massacre is an important but often overlooked event in American history. It occurred on April 20th, 1914, during a coal miners' strike in Ludlow, Colorado. This tragic incident is a significant part of the labor movement in the United States, highlighting the struggles between workers seeking better conditions and the powerful industrial companies of the time. Background: to understand the Ludlow Massacre, it's essential to know the context of the coal mining industry in the early 20th century. Coal was a crucial energy source, powering industries and homes. In Colorado, coal mining was a significant part of the economy, largely controlled by a few powerful companies. The Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, CF&I, was the largest and owned by the Rockefeller family. Working conditions in the mines were harsh and dangerous. Miners worked long hours for low pay and faced constant threats from accidents due to poor safety standards. They lived in company-owned towns where the mining companies controlled everything from the housing to the stores. Companies could pay them in scrip or company currency, usable only at stores that charged inflated prices, keeping miners in a cycle of debt and dependence. The strike. Discontent among miners grew, and in September 1913, miners in southern Colorado went on strike. The strike was organized by the United Mine Workers of America, UMWA, and aimed to improve conditions for miners. Their demands included recognition of the union, better pay, an 8-hour workday, enforcement of existing mining laws, and better living conditions. In response, the CF&I and other mining companies evicted the striking miners from their company-owned homes. The miners and their families set up tent colonies in the surrounding areas. The largest of these was the tent colony at Ludlow. Life in these colonies was hard, especially as they faced the coming winter, but the miners remained determined. Tensions built. As the strike continued, tensions between the miners and the mining companies escalated. The companies hired private guards and Baldwin Felts detectives to intimidate the strikers. The Colorado National Guard was also called in, initially to keep the peace, but eventually siding more with the mine operators. There were frequent skirmishes and instances of violence on both sides. The presence of the National Guard and hired detectives increased tensions. Guards stationed in the area would regularly harass the miners and sometimes resort to violent methods to break up gatherings. In the months leading up to the massacre, there were numerous reports of guards firing into the tent colonies and clashes occurring between strikers and company sympathizers. The massacre. On the morning of April 20th, 1914, the situation reached its tragic climax. The exact sequence of events is complex, but tensions boiled over when the National Guard and company guards moved to dismantle the Ludlow tent colony. Fighting broke out between the armed guards and the miners, who were determined to defend their families and makeshift homes. Throughout the day, the camp was subjected to heavy gunfire. Miners and their families sought shelter, some digging pits beneath their tents to protect themselves from the bullets. Tragically, a fire broke out in the camp during the chaos. By the end of the day, the camp was destroyed. The most horrific discovery was that of one particular makeshift bunker, where 2 women and 11 children had sought shelter. They all perished from smoke inhalation and the collapse of their flimsy shelter as the tent above them burned. In total, about 21 people died that day, including miners, their wives, and children. The aftermath. The Ludlow Massacre sparked outrage across the country. The event drew national attention to the harsh conditions faced by miners and the extreme measures companies would take to maintain control. The public and media reaction put pressure on both the mining companies and the government. In the weeks following the massacre, violence spread throughout the coalfields of Colorado, with miners attacking mines and battling guards in what became known as the Colorado Coalfield War. It lasted until the summer, when President Woodrow Wilson sent federal troops to restore order. Importantly, the Ludlow Massacre became a rallying cry for labor movements across America. It highlighted the need for reform in labor laws and better protection of workers' rights. Publications and prominent figures criticized the mining companies and the government for their roles in the violence. Long-term impact. Though the miners' strike ended in December 1914 without achieving its goals, the Ludlow Massacre had a lasting impact on the labor movement in America. It raised public awareness about the plight of workers and contributed to future labor reforms. It also increased support for the union movement, which continued to grow and fight for worker rights throughout the 20th century.